Happy day, everyone, and welcome back to Mastering the edTPA. In this video, we're going to continue our discussion about Task 1. We're talking about the instructional materials and assessments that you will upload. Just as a reminder, the big idea of Task 1 is that you're planning a series of lessons, and you're going to provide lesson plans and examples of the resources and assessment you're using. You design all of this with your specific students in mind, and you justify your decisions in the commentary, which we'll talk about in the next video. In the last video, we talked about the lesson plans themselves, and in this video, which should be pretty quick, we're talking about the assessments and instructional materials that you're going to upload. And what I'm going to do is just walk you through examples that some students have uploaded to show you what this could look like. There is not one way to do this. There are many ways to do this. What you upload will depend on the lessons that you're teaching and the instructional materials that you are using, which is why I'm going to show you a wide range. So for example, this is from a secondary English language arts edTPA, and this person had a PowerPoint that they was part of their lesson. These are instructional materials. So they saved the PowerPoint as slides, as you can see, and this is the first page of that, and they uploaded the slides. This is the second page of their instructional materials as the PowerPoint continues. This person also had a worksheet that they use as an instructional material, and so this is a copy of the worksheet. They also uploaded this. They had another worksheet they provided where they were looking at Langston Hughes' poem, and there was a graph or a table provided for the students to keep track of the figurative language they found and possibly the meaning of that. And then the final piece of instructional material for lesson 1 that this student uploaded was another worksheet in which students could summarize and talk about the effect of similes and metaphors in the poem. All of these fit with the students' overall, overall learning targets as they were making lesson 1. So if we were to look at the lesson plan for lesson 1, we would see that these instructional materials were all listed in the lesson plan for lesson 1. And then the student uploaded these as part of their Task 1 documents. These are all uploaded in one file. So all of the instructional materials from lessons 1, 2, 3, etc. will all be uploaded into one file. Note, though, that these are clearly identified as lesson 1 instructional materials. That's an important point. Here's an example from elementary math. Okay, now what's different is that this person, instead of having one assessment per page, this person shrank the pictures down onto one page. So this is actually one page of their uploaded instructional materials. And they had a picture of the paper tile students are going to use, and they had the grid paper students would use, and then they had the anchor charts that were hanging on the wall of the classroom. And they just put all of these on one page. It is absolutely okay to do. It does not say that you have to have a separate page for each instructional material. You can only have a total of 5 pages for each lesson plan of instructional materials. So this person got them all into one page. So there we go. Okay, so now let's look at the assessments. You're also going to be listing assessments in each of your learning targets, the formative and summative and possibly student voice or possibly pre-assessments. And so this is from secondary science, and you'll see this is from lesson 2. Now, one difference between the assessments that you're going to upload to the instructional materials is instructional materials are limited to 5 pages of instructional materials for each lesson plan. Whereas with assessments, there is no page limit. So you can upload as many pages of assessments as you want to for each lesson plan. It doesn't limit out. So you'll see that here. All right, so here's this is from a geology class where the learning target is clearly labeled on here. I can explain and model the processes that form igneous, metamorphic, and sedimentary rocks. And so this student has some group work students are doing, and they have some assessments in which students are going to be labeling and showing how rock materials transform. So here's a rock transformation diagram where the students get to draw. And again, this is an assessment that the teacher is going to use. Here's a self-assessment where they get to reflect on whether or not they can actually do it. Another way this teacher is assessing summatively whether or not they can do this is they get to make a comic strip of that rock formation process. Here's the rubric that the students are going to use to grade themselves or assess themselves on that comic strip. And here's the rubric the teacher is going to use in giving feedback. All of these are examples of assessments that a secondary teacher might include for this kind of lesson. Of course, in elementary math, assessments are going to look very different. So this lesson is from, I don't even know what the learning target is for this lesson. But if we were to look at the learning target for this lesson, you would see that these assessments are clearly labeled in the lesson plans and they clearly align with. If I recall correctly, students have to like circle the number of bats. There's 3 bats at the top. They have to circle the number of bats below, like A, B, C, or D that aligns with the top one. So it's a strictly accounting thing. And then there's a self-assessment that elementary students can use. I can find the number that is 1 more than another number. Okay, I remember. So if there are 3 bats, they had to circle 4. If they can do it, they circle the green light. If they need help, they circle the red light. These are simple examples of assessments. And I show these to you not so that you go, oh, I have to do something like that, but simply so you can see the variety of assessments and instructional materials that people upload that work. The ones you should upload are the ones that you are using in your lesson. Okay, and you can see there's a wide variety. All right, so some takeaways. For instructional materials, you could have up to 5 pages. Oh, excuse me. 5 pages of key instructional materials per lesson plan. So you're going to have to choose possibly because you can't upload everything. You're limited to 5 pages per lesson plan. So what the directions actually say is key instructional materials. And that's up to you to decide. If you're going to use your whiteboard, you may decide, I don't need to take a picture of my whiteboard and include it. That's up to you. Unlimited pages for assessments. You will submit all your instructional materials as one file, and you will do the same for your assessments. All assessments as one file. So you'll upload an instructional materials file, and you will upload an assessments file. And on that file, everything should be clearly labeled, so that the readers don't have to guess, wait, so which one of these go with lesson 1? Which ones go with lesson 2? You need to make that clear. And the examples that you provide in these files should correspond with the lists that you made in your own lesson plans. So if you say in your lesson plan, students will write, one assessment is they're going to write an essay in response to a prompt, you should provide the prompt for that essay as one of your assessments. And if you say students will complete a worksheet as an instructional material, you probably want to have an example of that worksheet as one of your instructional materials. So there should be a relationship between the lists you made in your lesson plans and the examples that you provide in your assessment files or your instructional materials file. That's it. This is pretty straightforward. I hope this was helpful.